Hello everybody, it's Marci from wavesofcommunication.com. Welcome to another episode of the Language Facilitation Helpline podcast, and thank you for tuning in today. The fastest results come when you enjoy the process of language facilitation. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Waves of Communication channel for another spotlight interview. Today I am here with Allison Livingston.
Hi, thank you, Marci. It's so great to be here. I am a parent coach, a conflict resolution expert and specialist, and I really focus on parents with strong-willed, frustrating kids when they get triggered. And this was my experience with my daughter. And so now I've learned for over 17 years of how to work with my own emotions, my own mindset, and that's what I coach parents, because it doesn't have to be so hard and you're not alone. And I wanted to say that I'm so glad to be here, particularly because my across the street neighbor, her daughter was a late speaker, and it was such an impactful experience for myself and my two daughters. So I just have a lot of empathy for moms and for the kids who often get misunderstood.
Yes, and that's another reason that we connected, and I wanted to invite you on because not just the kids are misunderstood. I think the parents get misunderstood by professionals and people around them. I think they get stuck in a lot of these habits that are not necessarily things that they might pick up, but just are sort of happening. We talked a little earlier about that happen in the system. So when we look at kids that are late speaking, it could happen from any reason. There are mindset blockages, there are physical blockages, and there are environmental blockages, because it's true that even kids that there's nothing wrong with them at all physically choose to not speak. It is true for all of us. And what happens when a child is late speaking, it doesn't matter why, whether they have something diagnosed or not, there's a lot of people around this family that somehow want to put their 2 cents in on the process. And it's partly because parents go asking, do you know what's wrong with my child? What is wrong? Do you see the differences? Or other people are comparing the child. That's what happens. People start, either the parent or other people start comparing this late talking child to other kids that are speaking. And so that's usually where it begins, is with comparison. So, and then it kind of goes down a rabbit hole, because once you start comparing, then you understand, why is my child different? And anybody you ask could give you a different reason why that late talker's different. And these days, a lot of parents are getting the answer, well, he probably has autism, or he probably has X, Y, or Z, but it's usually autism. And even kids that are socially, non-verbally, super communicative, they're being diagnosed, and their parents immediately, the comparison magnifies to 5 million times what it was when you were like, I wonder if something's wrong. Now somebody told you something's wrong. And then they spiral downward, and they hardly can do anything anymore. I want to talk about that. Can you talk about why that happens?
Yes, and that happens to whatever your child is struggling with. When your child is struggling, it hits a mother and a parent's heart, and we have all these conditioned beliefs that we're supposed to fix it, that it's our job. We're given the wrong job description, that we're supposed to be the end all be all, and that we're the savior. And that's not actually what our child needs from us. Our child needs us to see them, hear them, and accept them just the way they are. And this is where a lot of the topic we're going to talk about today comes, because when we are stuck in our rational mind, that's where all the judgment and the comparison is in our left brain, rational mind. It's not helpful in relationships. And so when we're in relationship with our child, all we want to do is be able to connect with them But when we're in this sort of armor, as Brene Brown calls it, of we're trying to solve them and fix them and we're seeing them as a problem, that gets in the way. That blocks us from the connection that when they're struggling, they yearn for. They just want us to accept them as they are. And that's really hard for a parent when there is something going on, like late talking, or like kids who are super strong willed and they don't want to be told what to do. And then they get triggered. So when we're in this reactive state, which is what judgment does to us, when we get in that people are judging our child.
Comparison goes to judging, right? Because that's all it is. You're judging. Yep. One is one thing, one is another thing. Whether it's good or bad or better or worse, it's judging.
Yeah. And so there is this process that we need to get to, which is grieving the child we thought we were going to have, the parenting experience we had dreamed of, and let that go so that we can actually accept and be with the child we do have. So that's a really important step.
Breaking that down to, I think it's all about expectations, right?
Yes.
From the time you get pregnant, you don't know. You don't know anything. You don't know how the next 9 months is going to go. So what do? You start comparing. How did you go? How did your mother go? How did whatever? Anything we don't know, it's our human nature, right? To go and compare to other people's experiences. And I don't know if that's something that is generationally learned, but it's definitely happening. I'm seeing it with my audience, and I know you're seeing it with your audience. So somehow we're in this culture of judging.
Yes, and it gets passed down from generation, I think. And this is just, again, a part of our brain that we're conditioned to prioritize. And instead, in relationship, it doesn't serve us. It's not skillful, but right. We don't know how to turn it off.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so let's talk about that, because I think what I do talk about this, about how parents, it's not helpful when you're stuck in mindset blockages. We call them mindset blockages on this because they don't help you move forward because you're stuck worrying about what you're worrying about and not moving forward. It's that rational brain. Why is this happening? And why do I do it? And I must not be able to do anything. Also, though, I think the other thing that covers it up, it almost blocks it from moving forward, is that sense of responsibility, also programmed like I've got to fix it. It's my kid. It's my responsibility to fix this child, fix this problem. They should always be happy and safe and comfortable. And it's my responsibility as a parent to do that. And this is another conditioned response, isn't it?
Yes, completely. And it's something that we attach to. So I actually encourage parents to name these parts that are super strong. So mine's Rebecca Responsible, and she just is too good at her job. And she, again, just takes over. And like that, you said that as a blockage, because when she just said it's compulsive energy, but it's I have to be responsible for my child. I have to fix it. That, again, creates blocks. And that's not actually what our child needs right then. And so it really stops the connection that we're both yearning for.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these other personas that can block. So what did you call the first one?
Rebecca Responsible.
Responsible. So I love that. Every mom has got their responsible hat, their responsible personality. I mean, that's what and if you haven't got it, you feel guilty if you don't feel it, right? But each one of these personas is important. We don't want to eliminate them. It's about balance in each one, right?
Exactly.
So you have to be responsible, but not over responsible. Don't turn yourself into the professionals. You have to always maintain your momminess in that responsibility.
What I've experienced and witnessed happen is that we supercharge some, like my Rebecca Responsible, and my other is Susie Superdoer, who is this total doer, and that's an important part of me. But that crowds out Valerie Vulnerable and some of the other parts that really, the whole goal is integration of all our parts. But when we were little, some of them got shamed and some of them got exiled. And we got attention for some, so those got supercharged, and we got shamed for others, and those got exiled. And so it's how to integrate so that we can be a whole person. And then we can accept our child with their whole person.
Their whole array of personalities that they come up with, and they switch. Just like you can change your mind, it's this triggers, right, that cause you to shift. So once you get triggered, you pick up Valerie Vulnerable, or you pick up Susie Do It All, whatever, superpower Susie. I love it when you think about your mindset and you call it something. It sort of helps you interact with that mindset, right? You can talk your real self, the one that's not segmented into Susie Superpower and Becky Responsible and blah, 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 all that. The one that's integrated can talk to this team and say, all right, sit down, Becky Responsible. Let's follow the kids' lead for a minute. Let's see them take the charge. Or let's let the vulnerable gal have a little say and talk about her boundaries, right? Yeah. If the child is pushing boundaries, and we're talking about these kids that, remember, they reflect what you do. And if you show up in freak out Franny, right? Whoever that personality is, right? As soon as somebody tells you something, you immediately go off and you are not thinking in that analytic brain, and the separation happens, right? Because it's all, these balances is necessary to establish and keep a good relationship with the child. So your experiences are win-win. We're both together. It's a connected experience. We're on the same mission here. It's not me making you do anything, or you manipulating me to get you to do something, or me trying to get you, or you trying to get me. It's us together. I know what you need. And that way you can have a relationship that it's never 50-50, right? It's never 50-50. As a parent, you're almost always giving, 90-10 or 80-20. But there are those times that they will come back and give you the difference, right?
And I think of it, again, I try to get away from sort of this zero-sum game, because when I'm integrated, I have abundant resource to be able to be whatever my child needs. And when I'm reacting to something that happened in my childhood because of anger, and I repressed anger, or sadness, and I was told, don't feel sad, look on the bright side, I was talked out of my emotions. And so much of it is our emotional intelligence got really stifled because our parents were really uncomfortable with it, because their parents were, and their parents were. So much of it is regaining our emotional intelligence so that we can support our child's emotional intelligence, because we connect through vulnerability and through emotion. And when we're all up in our heads trying to be rational and trying to fix and trying to be perfect, that again blocks. And that, especially again when our child is struggling, that's the time when they need us to be the most integrated.
Yes, and I know that you may think that those times when your kids are struggling are among the worst moments of your life, but honestly, those are your greatest opportunities, right? They're your greatest opportunities to either decrease or avoid happening these experiences again. You have, if you're aware and you're not triggered and reactive, you can respond to the child in that way. And they pay attention, don't they, in the difference between reactivity and response.
It's everything, because our energy shifts. And so when I'm not coming from that integrated, balanced, whole energy, when I'm trying to repress or judge or blame or get angry, then I can't be there. I can't be what they need. But when I'm able to just really receive them, no matter what they're doing, even if they're screaming, I can go, oh, they're trying to meet their needs. They're having a big emotion and they're trying to meet their needs. And that's when we can actually connect the best.
Yeah, they're great opportunities. And I also believe, because we talk about how this is generational, I think that a lot of parents that are watching our videos are in the generation that's here to change that pattern. You're here to be the moms who learn from your late talking or resistive combative child who isn't the normal parenting experience, right? And you get something better. You got a bonus, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
not easy, but you're also correcting generational energy
Yeah.
that you have the option, you have the opportunity
It's like a
to
gift.
be the one, yes, to be the
Yes.
one to shift it so that your child, as you facilitate their spoken language, because I feel like these kids have innate wisdom. They're
Yes.
born with wisdom. They're here to help us solve our energy crisis and our banking crisis and our education. Like, this is our next generation of geniuses. And you have, as a parent, the responsibility to create the relationship with them and the opportunity to create the relationship with them to help them bring that wisdom out into the world.
I so agree. And the first step is accepting who you have, not the dream that you expected or the hope or the again, it's not beat yourself up. It's just recognize that this is going on and it creates again a block. If I keep expecting my child to be different than they are, I'm giving her or him change energy, and that's shaming. And I don't intend to. It's all subconscious. So
Right.
it's really how to work with my own triggers so that I can be integrated, so that I can accept my child who exactly in this moment as they are.
Yes. And then I also want to talk about, so when we go through grief, and that's kind of our topic here, is what happens when you either first hit that realization or you're re-triggered, because you can sort of revisit this grief. You can feel very like, okay, I've got this, I'm good. You watch one of my videos, you get all empowered, and then you go lay your head on the pillow, or you go to a high school graduation or a family party or something like that, and you see other kids that are doing different things than yours, and you want your child to be like them.
Right.
And you say in your heart, I know I shouldn't want my kid to be different than they are, but I do. But I do.
Yeah.
What do
It
you say
brings
to
up a lot
those
of fear.
moms?
It brings up a lot of fear. And so it really is, it's really a compassion for yourself. This is hard. I didn't recognize how much this was going to pull from me and my own strength. And of course, I want my child to be able to deliver a valedictorian speech, and there's still a chance. And I need to be with them exactly as they are in this moment and realize that is what we have between us. And that's okay too. And I can still model and I can still love the child I have, not
Yeah.
the one that I'm comparing to my neighbor.
And you're focusing on the brilliance that is your child and not the stuff that they're missing or lacking or don't
Yes.
have. When you focus on this child's superpowers, that's
Yes.
what we call them. So maybe they're not good at things the neighbor kid's good at, but they're good at something. And
Exactly.
you can find it. You're the mama. In fact, they show you 24/7. I'm good at this. Let's do this. I want to do this non-verbally. They're
Right.
showing you all the time what they want to learn about and evolve. And so, in those parents that are stuck, either the first time or revisiting, do you have like a break glass in case of emergency? Like, do you have a something that they can go to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have two things I want to bring up. One is I have paper towel holders because when we're triggered, we look like we're going through a paper towel holder and we just see what's wrong because our brain zeroes into, they call it a negative, it's like a survival thing of what's wrong and what do I need to pay attention to. But again, this is a thought we're having on top. In actuality, nothing is wrong. And so we want to open our lens, open our aperture to the whole child because there's so much, as you just said so beautifully, that's going well, that they are doing. And so when I can keep that perspective, it helps me stay integrated instead of going to that panic mode, which is what happens when I look at that.
So a little mini gratitude, pay attention to what you're paying attention to first, and then choose to pay attention to the possibilities of your future and not the struggles of your past. We've learned from them. You've learned your lessons, Mom. You know you're not going to make those mistakes again. You learned from them. You got the bruises to prove it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's part of why you grieve. I got bruises. I'm tired. I don't want to feel this. You feel beat down by grief.
Yeah. And that's
fear.
when you're stuck because you're so attached to one thought, like my child needs to be able to do
what's
X, Y, and
wrong
Z.
or what they it's either what they're not doing and you want them to be doing, or what they are doing and you want them to stop. It's one or the other. And when you're focused in those lenses, even coaching isn't going to help you. Even coaching isn't going to help you because you're still stuck in why is it wrong and what have I done and I can't do it. And you're not even thinking about the real action you need to take, because let's talk about that. After you get over this grief, you have to help these kids evolve and improve, because that's the point, right? We don't want them to stay the same. We want them to be self-empowered to make improvement, right?
Right. And the grieving process is an exercise where you let yourself feel what you've been avoiding feeling. And so it's permission to write yourself a letter, to express all of your hopes and dreams, all of your sadness, things like, I wished my child was easier. I wished my child was quieter. I wished I yelled less. All the things that we sort of are coping strategies. And when we're able to accept them and go, oh yeah, I do think that, then we can crumple that piece of paper up and let it go, so that then we can be with the actual living human child that we have, who is a miracle, just not how we expected them to be.
Yeah, and even if you can't find someone to be vulnerable with, just be vulnerable with yourself. Because I think that's what that super Becky responsibility does, is she doesn't let you feel what you feel. Feel sad, feel the loss, feel the whatever, and let it go. And, when it's laid out in front of you in a letter or a video you make for yourself or whatever you do, talk yourself in the mirror, and you say, all right, I get it. You're sad. You need somebody to give you the hug and give you the empathy that you have, even if you don't get it from someone else. And it doesn't matter if you do get it from someone else. You might not even believe them if you're still beating yourself up.
Right. So much of it is the empathy, and something I call life-saving listening that we teach in the groups that I follow and lead. And it is just this non-judgment, non-advice, not even sympathy. It's just holding space for us to be with our feelings. And when we learn that skill, it's like a superpower. And then we can give that to our child. So.
Yeah, and then when you're all together, it's what's so interesting, because this vulnerability puts it out, because you are part of the universe and everybody's sharing all this energy anyway, even if you think you're all by yourself. It's you sitting there with Becky and Susie and Valerie and all those selves that you make you do what you do, feel what you feel, right? They're trying to make you who you are, but the best way to find that real you is through your connection with your child, right?
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is that even kids who are late talkers have so much communication, as you talk about on your website, because they say, I think verbal communication is like 7%, tone of voice is like 10%, and then the rest, like over 80%, is our body language. And so they're able to communicate well. We all are. It's just we're so, as a society, focused on the verbal that we lose track of how important the body wisdom is.
Right. And I think that's it. When, I guess the biggest message here is about where your focus is, right? And that's all, every mindset message is how it goes. When your focus is on your future and your progress and whatever. And the thing is, the reality is that it's difficult to get on that progress train. Woo, woo, let's go. We're doing this. When that grief is hanging around, right? When you got it in the back, you're pushing it down. You're not addressing it in the real world. you're suppressing it so that you can be super responsible and all that other stuff. And it's never going to work, is it?
No, it's never going to work. And I find that I double down on my rational and my trying to figure it out when I'm really needing to feel something. But I have that wall, and it feels unsafe. It is uncomfortable. And so the
It
whole
is.
of the mindset practice is learning to be with discomfort that we were never shown how to when we were kids because our parents didn't know how. And so the work that I do with parents is really learning how to feel uncomfortable so that they can let forth all of the emotions that we need that point us to our needs so that then we can be the integrated self that our kids need.
And you help people create habits to maintain this, right? So it's not just when I, putting out fires. I talk about the difference between having a firefighter mentality, the kind of firefighter that just sits in the firehouse and waits for the fires, or the kind that spends their downtime out doing education and making sure people are understanding what to do if, to avoid fires getting started in the first place. And I think that's it. When you do your consistent work, like the kinds of opportunities that Allison offers in her coaching, that's when you feel like a superpower. All of those things are integrated and you have access to all of them at the same time. You're not suppressing one to do the other to get a halfway result. It's an overall better outcome, and you find yourself being able to do more, don't you?
Yes, exactly. And it really is a system and it's a practice because it took a lot of weeks and years to build the habits we have. And so it's actually realigning our neural pathways so that we can then show up as this integrated parent who our kids will thrive with. And so it's a process, and often we do it with the moms community. In the fall, there's a new cohort starting up, and again, it's just so reassuring and so supportive to realize you're not alone and to realize you too can learn these new skills, so that you show up in this integrated way instead of reactive and jumpy and again avoiding feeling discomfort.
I love that. So it's like a community coaching situation where everybody can learn from each other. I love that. That's how my community's set up too. So the parents that you're following, that you coach all the time, just so that I can relate, I know that my parents are like them. These are parents who, again, have kids that are having some kind of struggle. And you as a mom, you're feeling the effects of that, either from what people say to you, what you say to yourself, or what your child's doing, your success, your failure, all of that, and just helping figure out what to do with all that and get
Yes.
your mindset control. So we talk about how on my platform, mindset is the key. You have to get your mindset straight, your balance going before you can dig in and start talking more slowly and giving more language models and swapping out your prompting and all those other sort of language facilitation tasks that you can do. You sort of have to show up ready for the job. And that is the readiness is not I got to do more. It's just I'm open. I'm ready to be here with my child and see what happens as we move forward together, instead of I'm going to make this happen.
Yes. And the key is I don't have to look a certain way because there's so much conditioning about us to show up together and perfect and having it all aligned. And that's not real.
No.
Humans are messy and humans have emotions. And I love your wave of connection because there's also the wave of emotion. And that's
Oh,
the key.
certainly.
That's
Yeah,
the
and
key.
that's why the progress, we like to see progress going up, but it usually is a wavy process. It's not a straight linear situation, and it's because we live in a messy world where information comes at us, we don't know what to believe, and our feelings are all over the place. And that's why in a messy world, keeping yourself organized and balanced is the best way to go about it. So hey, Allison, if you were going to talk to your audience of parents about the waves of communication, so anybody out there who does have a late talking child, where would you send them first on the platform?
Oh, I love your website because it gives so many different options depending on where the parent's at with their own journey in this. And anywhere from the book where they can do it on their own to full on coaching and the community. it's just wonderful how you meet parents where they are. And that's, I think, the most important thing, because when a parent has a late talking child, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of fear, there's just a lot up. And so they love having the amount of support that your parents give. And so I just send them to your website because it's so important. And the kids are they can learn, and you offer so much support just from from their home.
That's right. Yeah. And that's the whole point of our channel, is that, you have a lot more power as a parent than you realize, both in a positive way potentially and a destructive kind of way. I mean, think about the kind of things that you're recovering from your parent. I'm just going to say it out there, I'm one of them. Allison's one of them. We all know, and our parents got it from theirs and from theirs and from theirs and from theirs.
And I unintentionally.
Right.
We just,
I don't know. It's just how you do it. It's a habit. It's a habit.
A lot of shame and a lot of conditioning. And, I'm so disappointed in you, and you should be a different way. Instead of, you are who you are, and let's figure out how we can relate so everyone gets their needs met. It's a totally mindset shift.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love this so much. And so, Allison, you've got a coaching program. How do people find out about your situation?
Yeah. So if you've got either a late talking child, a strong-willed child, if you are triggered by your child, it doesn't have to be so hard. And so there's one-on-one coaching with parent partners. There is mom's group coaching that happens 3 times a year. And there's online courses that are super affordable, because this information I'm so passionate about, because if I had known this when my daughter was super young, we were just battling because we would trigger each other, and then we direct our upset at each other. And instead of realizing we each do it for ourselves, and we're each trying to meet our own needs. And so when parents learn that, it's just light bulbs go off, and it just gets so much better quickly. They have less hard interactions and more connection, which is what we all yearn for.
And I love experts like Allison, because not only has she gone to school to learn all the things she's got to do, all the courses and things that she's done, but she lived through this with her own child, with her own feelings, and she learned through all of her own ups and downs. She can relate to you just like I can too. You know what I mean? The parents that follow us are looking to us to be supports for them. And I know that's why Allison's here, because she's going to also be a great contributor to our Waves of Communication community of providers that are equipping and empowering parents to find your best success everywhere. So please take advantage of these resources, everybody. Allison, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say, the real thing is for the kids, because we don't want to keep giving them negative energy. And so that's what Marci and I are both doing. When we show up as an integrated parent, then we can give them the positive energy that they really yearn for. Come to my website, 5stepstoconnect.com. Thank you for your time and all you do for these parents with their late talking children. It's a gift.
It's my pleasure to have you. With a whole range of Waves of Communication resources, from free content to customized coaching, you now have access to everything you need to elevate spoken language to infinite success. You are welcome to get your journey started with my 11-week language facilitation Journey to Speech workbook. You can access this workbook and all of the language facilitation resources on my website, wavesofcommunication.com.